Hey, how's it going, everybody? Thank you for clicking on this video. Thanks for hanging out with me. We're going to be going over another Borderlands 4 theory crafted guessing build for Borderlands 4 coming out on September 12th. This is going to be the last build video that I put out before the release of Borderlands 4. So if you're seeing this video, that means you're either playing Borderlands 4 or you're waiting another couple hours for it to release in your time zone. But we are so close to the release of this game and I cannot wait. Today, we're going to be going over a build for Amon, the Forge Knight. This build is called I See Red because I just imagine Amon fully enraged, seeing red. And also, we're only putting points into the red tree calamity. So let's talk about it. It's a big one. Amon gets the Forge skill. Amon gains Forge skill depending on his equipped action skill. Forge skills can be activated by pressing and holding an action skill. Molten Slam. Onslaughter action skill equipped. Press and hold action skill to slam a molten forge hammer into the ground, dealing incendiary melee damage to enemies in a large area. Or Firewall. Scourge action skill equipped. Press and hold the action skill to deploy a firewall that absorbs enemy projectiles and grants friendly projectiles that pass through it increased damage and projectile speed. Absorbed damage is converted into vengeance. If Scourge is active, enemies near firewall take incendiary damage, status effect damage over time. Or the Double Edge Crucible action skill. Press and hold the action skill to throw a twinned forge axe, dealing cryo melee damage to enemies it passes through, and returning the Amon, dealing incendiary melee damage on the way back. For this specific build, we're probably going to be focusing on the Molten Slam or the Double Edge to benefit from the melee damage. Like I said, we're going to be going over the red tree. So we're going to pick Onslaughter as our action skill. Amon overloads his Forge Fist, gaining constant shield regeneration, bonus incendiary damage with guns, and increased movement speed. That movement speed is going to be important. Press the action skill or melee to Rocket Punch, dashing to target enemies, dealing incendiary melee attack damage in a short-ranged cone and causing stagger. Bosses cannot be staggered and badasses have a chance to be staggered. So that movement speed is important because we're going to be running around as quickly as possible, even though Amon's the biggest vault hunter we've ever had, and he's going to be charging around with the Rocket Punch from enemy to enemy as fast as he can. The Rocket Fist damage does 239. Shield restore is 10%. Bonus burn damage at 25%. The movement speed plus 30%. It's great. Duration for 18 seconds and the cooldown is 50 seconds. So let's start up at the top here. We have 5 points going into Discombobulate. Amon gains melee critical strike chance at 5% per point, giving us 25% crit chance. Next, we're going to slide over to Heavy Plate. Amon gains increased melee damage and skill damage. Well, those kind of just stack right on top of each other. And then you gain 4% maximum shield capacity at 5 points, gives you 20%. And then the max super shield capacity plus 8% at 5 points. You gain melee damage, skill damage, and max shield capacity. That's fantastic because when you're running around, you are going to be exposed to a lot of enemy damage, so you need as much shield as possible to keep you safe. After we take those, we can head on down to our Augment, which is Thermal Diffusion. Rocket Punch now has 2 modes. Gains increased radius and deals bonus damage based on Amon's maximum shield capacity. Bonus damage, more shield. We've already taken a few items that give us more shield. Pressing action skill causes Rocket Punch to deal incendiary melee damage. Pressing melee causes Rocket Punch to deal cryo melee damage. Press keybind. Rocket Fist will deal freezing melee attack damage. Rocket Fist radius is plus 100%. And then bonus damage plus 20% of maximum shield capacity. So for this one, I think it is going to be more so enemy specific if you're going to be using the incendiary melee attack or the cryo. it's just going to base it upon what the enemy has, giving you 2 different statuses. So then your weapon, you can use like radiation, electric. So basically you get 2, and then you can just use your weapons to pick up the missing statuses or elements that you don't have from your melee attacks. After that, we're going to go ahead and put 5 points into Tritanium Knuckles. Increases Amon's melee damage and skill damage. 5% melee damage per point at 5 points is 25%, and skill damage is 3% at 5 points, making it 15%. Again, just stacking up some bonus damage. Over here, we are going to put 3 points into Gut Punch. Melee damage and ordnance damage have a chance to apply weakness to enemies for a duration. Weakened enemies deal reduced damage and take increased damage. Weakness is affected by status effect duration, and itself considered a status effect. Not only do we like to buff our character, but we're also going to be debuffing the enemy. We don't get a lot of debuffing traits, and whenever I do have the opportunity to take one, I try to. So the melee rate on this is going to be plus 20% melee rate. So I guess that means how fast you can spam punches. Your gun rate plus 10%. And then the damage caused by enemies is taking their damage down by 40%. You're almost cutting their damage in half. After those, we can come on down to the best defense. Amon gains a super shield when dealing melee damage. Well, this is primarily a melee damage build, so we're going to be constantly building super shield. At 3% at 5 points, getting about 15% super shield. Plus, we had heavy plate up here, which further increases the max super shield capacity. After that, we're going to take a couple points down here in the middle into the Fray passive. We got 5 points in. Amon gains increased damage dealt and damage reduction based on his distance from the enemy. The closer the enemy, the greater the bonus. And we are going to be up close and personal, non-stop. Damage caused plus 5% when close at 5 points is 25%. And the damage reduction, 14%. At 5 points. Whew, that is great, because we are already stacking up damage reduction, and this is going to just even further boost that. After that, we can get Harbinger. It's a kill skill. Amon gains increased melee damage and maximum shield capacity for a duration. We're going to put 5 points into that. Shocker, we're getting yet more melee damage and shield capacity. Oh, this effect can stack 1% per layer. That's 5 points, so we're doing 5% of melee damage per layer, and it's a max stack of 5 layers. So another, 25% melee damage, maximum shield capacity at 2% per layer, so it's 10%. Overlay duration 20 seconds. A great way to continue to get more melee damage and maximum shield capacity for a short duration. That's all from this little middle section. Now we're going to head to the right and put 5 points in Catastrophe. Whenever Amon applies shock to an enemy, he gains increased critical hit chance for a duration. Whenever Amon applies burning to an enemy, he gains in critical hit damage for a duration. Both effects stack separately. So the critical hit rate is 1% at 5 points, 5% critical hit damage, 2% at 5 points, 10% for a duration of 12 seconds. This is where it would really come in handy to use a shock weapon, because then you can apply shock with the weapon from a distance and then close the gap with the rocket fist, applying incendiary damage with your fist. So you're applying shock, you're applying burn. If they didn't already drop over from the first punch, just know that you now have a better critical hit chance and critical hit damage on your next attack because they're both shocked and burning. After that, we can drop down to put 5 points into Judgment. Amon deals increased melee damage to enemies below 50% total HP. So that's plus 7% at 5 points. It's 35% melee damage. So that's a great closer. You get somebody pretty low, and then once they drop below 50%, you can just wail on them, and that should seal the deal because we've already stacked a ton of melee damage into this build. Next, we can do Fists of Stone. We got 5 points in. Whenever Amon deals melee damage, which is constantly, Restore a percentage of forge skill cooldown. Melee attacks double this effect. So we're just meleeing like crazy and doubling the effect. Melee attacks will double the effect of forging skill cooldown recovery at 2% per 5 points. So it's 10% doubled with melee attacks to 20%. That means we get our forge skill more frequently, which means we're going to be constantly using our action skill. After all that, we can go ahead and put 1 point into electrical fire. Whenever Amon burns an enemy, he also shocks them. And whenever he shocks an enemy, he also burns them. So that'll help again with the shock weapon that we need. Whenever Amon electrocutes an enemy, it also burns them, cooldown 2 seconds. So every 2 seconds, we have to wait before we can apply these things again. And last but not least, we have our capstone, which is called Storm Cutter. Molten Slam is now Storm Cutter. Press and hold the action skill to swing a massive forged sword, launching a forge wave that deals shock melee damage to all enemies it passes through. So it's like a big side swipe, and this horizontal clothesline basically goes out and cuts through everyone. Restore action skill cooldown, action skill duration, and ordnance cooldown for each enemy hit. The forging wave damage is 385. Action skill cooldown recovery 20%, action skill duration recovery is 20%, artillery cooldown recovery 20%, and the overall cooldown of 90 seconds. I think this build is going to make you feel so strong. You're basically going to be a big bully, running around and just punch after punch, their face. It's just, it just seems silly, but I think you are going to be able to just create a massive overshield and run around and just punch everything in your way. And even if they are at a distance, you can use Storm Cutter to just slice through the air and send that melee damage. I also think this year in Borderlands 4, instead of grenades, you can also pick up throwing knives. And I don't know for sure yet if throwing knives do ordnance damage or if they do melee damage. There's also guns in previous Borderlands that fire out melee damage. So those are going to be weapons that you definitely want to keep an eye out for. Well, that's going to be it for me, folks. Hopefully you enjoyed this build. Hopefully you agree with what I went with on this melee Forge Knight Amon skill, or Amon build that I have, sorry. Let me know if you would have changed anything. Let me know if I may have missed a perk. If you like it, leave a like. Let me know in the comments what you think. Are you going to be using this build on day one? Are you going to be trying it out on your second playthrough or third playthrough? I know I'm definitely going to get around to trying this one out. I just don't know when. Again, thank you all for being here. You can pause the video, take a look at all these points so you can use it for your run if you want to give it a try. Let me know what Vault Hunter you're going to be using on your first playthrough. Who's your favorite? Do you have a build in mind that you're kind of going for? Are you going for an all melee build, or are you going for just a gunslinger build, or do you just want to use an ability to crowd control everyone? Or are you just going in blind? Gonna just kind of figure it out on the fly and base your build upon what weapon and what gear you pick up along the way? It's a looter shooter with billions of guns and gadgets to pick up. Anything's possible. Thank you again, everyone. I appreciate you being here. Make sure to leave a follow. Check me out on Twitch whenever I'm going to be playing Borderlands 4 throughout the entire weekend, checking every nook and cranny, trying to explore the map as much as possible, while also blasting through the content to get as many builds out and tips and tricks as I can. Thank you, everybody. Take care. Have a great day.